Alright, so to develop this film I had to take it out of its canister, and as you can see it's a little bit ruined. That's alright. It just means that during this episode I'll just be grabbing random photographic paraphernalia from my desk and we'll see how that goes. I have a lot of hesitance when it comes to 400 speed film. This probably comes from when I first started learning photography and I had the choice of going with Ilford FP4 or HP5. Well, looking back on my results from old negatives, I think they're actually perfectly fine and actually give some pretty good results. But I always gravitated towards the results I got with FP4 over HP5. I really hated that when you look in the shadows you tend to get a bit of a grain build-up, and this is really noticeable in the skies. And so when you do a little bit of landscape photography, the FP4 always had better looking skies, and this irritated me, and I think for a very long time it means that I've stuck with 100 speed films. This gives me an interesting conundrum. When thinking about re-evaluating faster films, I think about two things. First, 400 speed film and faster films were often marketed as a versatile film for casual use. But on the other hand, I want to give 400 speed film a really fair representation, to shake this aversion that I have to it being gritty and grainy. So I'm split between using one of two cameras for this test. I can either put Kentmere Pan 400 in a small compact camera, the type of which it was advertised for the casual photographer to use back when 400 speed was exciting. Or I can try to get the absolute most out of the 400 speed film by going with a big SLR, only using Zeiss lenses which I happen to like. After lots of consultation and consideration by friends who I do trust the opinion of, always trust your close friends, the group and I decided that this would be a good opportunity to try out the true 1990s experience of photography and go with a plastic fantastic, a Pentax sporting an extraordinarily whelming 35-80mm f4.1 to 8.7 lens. It also has a panoramic feature which I shall not be using in this video. This will be an unusual experience for me because the only controls on this camera are zoom, flash, and date imprint, which I will immediately forget to turn off. So I am very much in uncharted waters, but let's see how we get on. This video is about the film and not about the camera I'm using, so it's time to load up Kentmere Pan 400, made by Harman Technology, the same company that brings us Ilford films. There is a chance you may have come across this film under different branding. Harman have confirmed in the past that they do allow rebranding of their Kentmere films. They don't tell us which ones they are. However, it is suspected by the community that both APX and RPX by Ag4Photo and Rolly respectively are Kentmere films rebranded. So if this happens to be true, just use whatever you find cheaper at the time. This also may not be accurate. So as it happens, I do know that I quite like Kentmere Pan 100. It's a great backup film for me. It's something that I, in the past, have tried to just always have available in the fridge for whenever the moment takes me. So with that good impression, let's see what happens with Kentmere 400. So here we are at a local park, and it's looking quite nice here in the afternoon, but what's this? We seem to have run into another technical issue, dear viewer. Last time we had overdevelopment, this time we have underdevelopment. Same issue as last time, limited amount of information before I went to develop, and well, these are the results. Now, I will say I think that underdeveloped film is a lot more recoverable than overdeveloped film. However, we're nowhere near the resolving power of this lens. It does look very grainy compared to what it should look like. How can I tell? Well, simply put, I just looked up other people's photos online, and other people get better results than I do, even using Pyrocat-based developers. Anyway, we'll carry on. This can be a little bit educational about the differences between over and underdevelopment, and we'll just have to live with the results and carry on with our experiment. Now unfortunately, because of this underdeveloping, it's not the easiest thing to assess exactly how far askew things have gone in terms of contrast and grain size. This could just be because of Pyrocat, or it could be because of the development and so on. It does mean that there's probably a lot more experimentation I need to do with 400 speed films, but I may not be using Kentmere to try and nail things in. Anyway, after this, it's time to grab another quick coffee, followed by a trip to the beach a week or two later. I'm torn by these next few shots. They're not how I would normally like to present my work, however I think it shows that some people really go for a lo-fi look and it can work out really well in your favour. There really is a dreamy quality, like a memory of being at the beach, rather than actually taking a photo of the beach and it being clinically sharp and a perfect representation. But after the beach, we'll finish up with some worn down houses and come back and talk about my overall feelings about this film. Again this month, sadly, I don't think I'm able to present this film and the developer combination at its full potential. Well, that's a little bit disappointing. I think there is some interesting potential, and I never would have tried it out, but these dreamscape-like effects are really fascinating. I would have to play around with this a lot more, and that could be a project in its own right. But again, I'm kind of repulsed a little bit by the large grain. Now, nothing against people who like that effect, that's fantastic. You make the photos that bring you joy. But high grain is just not something that's really gelled with me. Though, these pictures are getting me to sort of reevaluate that a little bit. So, there has been some nice side effects. I'm going to call that done for now. And I am excited to try some more 400 speed films in the future. There are still a few more in the list. And I definitely want to give them a try, like I was saying, with some lenses that I know that I like. And if we're lucky, we will have some more information on developing with Pyrocat. Again, that is a shortfall, but it's part of the fun of this challenge. And I hope it might be helpful to anyone out there who's also trying this. So, on to the next one. Okay, Kentmere Pan 400 down. What is next? Ooh, another fast one, HP 5. I have something special in mind for this one. Till next time.